This conference will now be recorded.
As always, everyone, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So talk to me. How do we feel today went? How do we feel we did today? It went. I noticed that Doug couldn't keep his mouth shut the entire day. You know what? But when you get to a level when you just see things and no one says it, it's kind of hard to to keep your hands off the mouse. Real well. And I overall, Steve, I agree with you. I definitely agree that it definitely went very well, but I definitely saw a little bit of a window into something. Too many call outs, a lot of scattered discussion. Absolutely. It wasn't as focused as it should have been, but I didn't take that as the whole picture. Overall, I was definitely, pretty happy. We did well, but yes, it was a bit of a frenzy at times. I thought it went well. I was hoping around looking at bet callouts, but rather focusing on my own plans, which is the number one reason why we do this. And just to keep in mind, we're going to start doing this a lot more often. When I say a lot more often, I mean, a couple times a month here or there, but it gives me such a great insight. Not enough detailed analysis. That's where my notes are. That's exactly how I felt. I'm just going to put this up for a second because I took the screenshot for a very specific purpose. Get better when things slow down. Things get easier and it's less chaotic and it's easier to kind of see the plan that's coming out. So that's to be expected. Obviously, when things get slower, it's definitely a lot easier coming in. It was a lot of surface level, then on to the next. All right, so can I ask you something? Now, there's a reason for these type of callouts, but at the same time, is saying would watch coming to a level important if it didn't have information before it? And you got to remember, as you're trading, I mean, just to give you an idea, as you're trading, and you see, I'm going to pull over my Discord for a second. And as you guys, you see something and you just go, like for instance, JMIA. You put something out there because something is happening right that second, and you're giving people the chance to and to analyze it. And that's going to happen. I mean, it's just the way that a chat is going to have to work. But nothing. So I made a few comments this morning. What were those comments? So understanding that patterns are everything within trading, okay? Understanding just, print patterns, understanding, different market makers' methods and things that are coming into it are so important for us, but it doesn't just go there. We need to understand it kind of and bring it into our regular lives and just see patterns within things that change, things that stay the same, things that stand out. What do you notice about lots of the callouts today? And David said it so perfectly. And I'm going to go all the way back right before he left. My observation from today was overall in the morning there were many tickers being thrown out and less actual simple breakdowns. Overall, moving forward myself, I'm going to be doing less of providing noise and more of putting simple breakdowns of what I see. And that's one of the biggest things. So I just want to give you a perfect example of it. When this screenshot right here, what does it tell us? Because I'm going to tell you something. We started our meeting a little bit late because I nailed this thing on the head. I mean, just perfectly. And it was all because of these prints that came out. And obviously there was more information that came into it. But what do these prints here say? Because calling out ask prints at 17 need to be done. But that's not what we need to be focused on, because it's what comes up into it. They stood out a lot more than previous, absolutely. But what prints did? What prints here stood out more? Because we see these beautiful ask prints that came in at 17, followed by bid prints, which is a specific pattern, right? Okay, what pattern is this? What pattern is of these ask prints right here? And it's not, okay. So right here. What does this pattern tell us? Because when I was looking in the chat, I didn't see anything really put up that gave any type of information on what's going to happen. Because yes, ask Prince at 17, great, pullback then needs to go up. But what do we notice just in that pattern alone? Quick move up and then down. Then we take a look at what its range is. What's a quick move up? Pretty substantial, no? But what's the most important part of the screenshot? Because it's not this. I mean, this, don't get me wrong, this is what gave us this entire move up to 20. And when I say up to 20, I mean that because yes, it did go higher, but 20 was the number. Not 1750. Nope, 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 nope. So what's happening is that we're calling out prints at levels because that's easy. It's an easy habit to get into the, to get into your mind. You see something there, guess what? We type it out. Most of the time, you'll see multiple people type out that same number. But what were the most important? The buying right here. What was the reaction to this buying? Because 1670, although it's not a huge position, it's nothing crazy. What did that position at 1670 tell us? Time frame. That says now time, doesn't it? So then when this comes up with this pattern at that 17 level, we know it's going to make a quick move up, but then it's going to come back down. But I also want you to understand something else, what these prints told us. Is this a long-term trader right here, right in this area? Is this a long-term trader that came into it? No, it's not. Not even close. So what does that now tell us about the prints that came in 17? Was it going to take a long pullback or a short pullback? And when I say that, I mean time frame, because obviously the range, you got to look at least $1. It's trading in at dollar increments, so we got to look. But it's going to be very, very short. So I saw some of actually, I don't even think that anybody put out. Yes, someone put out 17 asks, but no one put out this. What was the most important part of this trade? Was it these prints right here, or was it this? It set the stage, those prints underneath, but it also told us exactly what needed to happen. So it told us how to interpret this. Because if we go back and we look at the print personality here, guys, is there a lot of prints that come in? When it prints, what's the print personality? It's pretty thin, isn't it? It's very, very thin. Okay, but guess what? From 15 to 20 is $5. So that's a hell of a day no matter what. But do you see, guys, you guys understand what I'm saying? And this is really what it is that we see too many of you guys are getting focused upon, okay, now we have controlling prints. Controlling prints, what does controlling prints tell us? So that's the funny part. If you look at the print personality right here, did those three prints not stand out? I don't know if it's going to let me, actually, it might, yep. It might let me go all the way back. Look at the print personality before this, before we came up to 17, guys. Okay, so you see 16, 3 prints, and from 16 had no problem going straight back up. So then when we look at the actual print personality coming up to a major level and someone randomly coming out and giving us 3 prints at 1670, is that not, does that not jump out at you? Because guess what? If that stock does not go above 17, what happens to the guy that's sitting behind the computer at 1670? And this is basically what I take out of today is really that your mindsets are very focused on rules, which is a great thing. He dies. I was going to go with fired, but depending on what country or wherever, maybe that might be the case. But the thing that I'm seeing is that, yes, it's very easy for you guys to be able to see what's going on at levels, but you're not paying enough attention to the actual reactions that are going on before it. This coming out right here, okay, is that an easy thing to print as a stock is parabolic? Because it's only 3,000 shares if you look at the numbers, but I don't care about the numbers. And I tell you guys this all the time. I care about the amount of prints that come in because the execution itself tells me more than how much they're putting into it. At the end of the day, do we have any idea how many shares someone's building in a position? And this is something that needs to be thought about. Do we have any idea how many shares are going to be put into a position? Do we have any idea that these below the bid prints that happen all the way up to here, all the way up to 1670, weren't part of this position? No, we don't. But what we do know is that if it took 3 executions and it printed 3 times to get 3,000 shares, that's a difficulty of trade, no? Is that an easy thing for anybody to be able to do? It's not. So then afterwards, when we get these are the prints, okay? Because 17, guess what? If you weren't watching ALT as it was moving up, then I don't know what the hell you were watching. Maybe JMIA, you might have been watching NKLA, you know, one of those situations. But we know 17 ask prints. But coming up to this, it gave away exactly what was going to happen. It told us that the stock was going to jump very quickly. It was going to pull back, but because of these prints, it comes back in. And what I've noticed is there was a ton of prints today on stocks that you guys were talking about that no one put out there that jumps out at you. And that's the biggest thing that we want to look for. We want to look for something that says this has to happen. Okay, 17, we know it needs to pull back. Okay, 17 ask prints, we know it needs to pull back, and then it has to go back up, right? So we understand that fact. But these prints right here could be long-term, couldn't they? Based off the print personality, could tell us that this stock could pull back to 15, couldn't it? Stock could pull back to 14, couldn't it? All these possibilities. I mean, it literally could pull back to 1 and then go all the way up like NIO and take about, you know, since March of 2019. These things can happen. So it's what comes out before or what comes out after that really shows us. Now, just a quick, real easy lesson. What's more important? What comes before or what comes after? Is it easier to react or be the actual action? After is way easier. What happens before means that person knows exactly what's about to happen. So when we see something like this, so my biggest takeaway from what I've seen today, and I know I kind of dragged this out a little bit longer than it needs to be, but is there's so many prints that are coming out that you guys just aren't paying attention to. Because guess what? At 1670, it doesn't mean much. But when it goes into the actual story itself, when it goes into the puzzle itself, it changes every aspect of what we're looking at. So understanding that is really what makes us a good trader. It could end up as nothing, but it's like the preface of our story. So it could end up as nothing. What you're gonna see, and once you start focusing on this, is that most of the time the first person to the table is not wrong. So coming up to 17, guess what? There was an order there. We all knew that 17 was going to get hit. This person knew 17 was going to get hit, but were they worried about it? This position right here tells me they were not. This is the reason that I was able to take the screenshot the second it happened, because no one put this out there. But that's what we need to be focused on, because guess what? Yes, you can be a good trader. 17 asks, needs to pull back. Okay, in this case, you probably could have shorted it if you had shares. But this also told us the move to 20 was almost guaranteed. This was about a 90% trade coming in just based off of that variable, because no one would in their right mind. Guess what? They didn't do it before. Okay, look at all the prints. If we come down here, guys, and we look at this, it looks like a mix of crap. You have your 15 ask prints, which, okay, that's great. But then look at the prints. Look at how market makers are actually executing what's going on. We don't see anything. So what we know is that one print is going to go a long way. And then all of a sudden, okay, after 1650, you get those few asks. We come back up here and we see that that's right underneath the 17 level, somebody comes in and does something like that. That's the stuff that jumps out. That's the stuff that tells you, guess what? It's time for a trade. Okay, do we still need to pull back? We absolutely do, because this pattern alone tells us that we're going to get that quick jump up and then we're going to pull back. So we have to assume, and based just off of our rules alone, we have to assume that the stock is going to go back underneath the actual 17 ask prints. But then guess what? There's a 90% entry to take it afterwards once we see that volume. And look at the volume itself. It just stayed high. So yes, you have a dip. This is not a dip. When a stock goes into all the bars are almost exactly the same. But you see how See how in depth it actually goes than just looking at this number, saying pullback and coming underneath. And that's what I saw today, is that there's too many prints that are going unnoticed by you guys. And it's not that they're unnoticed, but controlling prints tell us where the stock is going to go, which direction it's going to go. But we need to know the story behind the market makers that are trading it to tell us when the timing is going to be there. Otherwise, what's going to end up happening is we're always going to be that trader that gets shaken out, and then it does exactly what it told us it was going to do. And we've all been there. I know I have in my career. Any great trader we've all been there, where it does exactly what it needs to, just not when we thought. And that's when we need to focus on, and that's what I saw today. This is why when Doug always asks us for more info in our analysis, 100%, because guess what? You can be a good trader, ask Prince at 17, wait for pullback underneath, take trigger back to the upside. You can be a good trader, make lots of money, have a happy life. It's not going to make you a great trader. It's the little intricacies that really is what changes how we see things. That's the person that says, I'm waiting for it to pull back underneath, and not having a number for where it's going to pull back to. Because yes, you can just wait until it pulls back underneath 17, you get a trigger to the upside, boom, hit the trigger, great trade. But it's not going to give you that matrix sight and be able to see just inside and out what a stock needs to do. And that's, once again, so am I going against a stock Prince at 20, putting it there? No, of course not. You need to be paying attention to every single part of that. But it's the little intricacies that go into tape reading that will change you from either not a good trader to a good trader, and a good trader to a great trader. So in this case, were you looking for entry somewhere above that 70, below 17? No, I at that point, I could care less. My number was 17 because it was trading in dollars. Okay, so 16. So that dollar would have made sense, but I knew it was going to be real quick. Okay, because the Prince just told us, it blatantly obvious, just boom, this is what has to happen coming into there. So I still needed, because of this pattern. Now, keep in mind, guys, if I go back to these prints right now, and I just want you to understand this pattern, if there wasn't these 17 prints right here and these were gone, would I even have expected a pullback? Would I even been looking for a pullback? No, not at all. Not whatsoever. Okay, but it was just a perfect trade because it gave us so many value. I could have traded this without looking at a chart because it was just that easy to see that this pattern, this person right here told us today it needs to make a move. On top of the variables, guys, ALT, how long is ALT going to be hot for, statistically speaking? Just to give you all the variables that I had here. Yeah, 15-minute fame. That's it. Okay, tomorrow, is this going to trade? It might. I don't know. But statistically speaking, it's not going to. It's not going to be anything. So we have to understand when someone goes in big towards the end of the day, they need to make money. So this person told us right now they're making money now. So then when we come in here, based off this pattern, we know quick move up, move back towards the downside, and then trigger to the upside. We take our, we take our trade and we go into that money. Okay, but this right here is the most important part of this trade, not these. This, we already knew the direction. Well, technically we didn't because 15, it was pretty far away from 15, but this gave us the direction right here, right in this 17 area, gave us the direction. But that right there is what stood out. So I wouldn't call it homework, but as we go into tomorrow, you need to start looking at these stuff. Things that stand out that just don't make any sense compared to what was happening are usually the most important things that we see because there's a reason the person had to make it obvious. And when I say obvious, this wasn't obvious up, but at the same time it was because of the way that it fell into the puzzle. So a lot of you guys are getting stuck on just following what controlling prints are. And guess what? You're always going to be right. 90% of the time you're going to be right that the stock is going to go in that direction. But understanding what the actual game plan itself is where we get our time frame and our understanding of what their plan is. Once we know their plan, we can trade their plan. We help them. They let us make money. Boom. Beautiful world. Perfect ecosystem. All right, guys, any questions? So once again, like I said, and I do want to put this out there. The overall, I am very happy with what I saw. I really am, because I can see who steps up. I can see the where your mindsets are going, and the way that you guys are kind of seeing things. Okay, but at the same time, you're still missing a little bit. Yeah, I have a ton of notes, and we can go over them at a different time. It is 10 after 4. So I do have things to do, but yes, for instance, I could go NIO this morning coming up on the long, but really showed us short. There's a bunch of other stuff, but this is the lesson that I wanted to get across, is that there's too much else that goes in. There's too many prints that aren't being talked about, that are, to me, are trading prints that come in. So that's what we're going to work on. So tomorrow I am also going to announce the date of our next round of classes, as well as a little bit of a, like I said, I'm going to throw a little bit of a kink into things. I'm going to let you guys make some decisions. Can I post this on YouTube? Absolutely. All right, guys, everyone have a wonderful night. Once again, I am very happy with what I saw. I will talk to everyone in the morning. Happy trading.